Empathy. I know what you're thinking. Empathy is a word that comes up in polite conversation all the time. Everyone's kind of interested in empathy, but everyone has a different definition. For some people, empathy is about showing sympathy for someone who's having a hard time. For other people, empathy is about mind reading, and still other people use empathy in the same way that we'd use like having heart or having a conscience. But all these definitions, they kind of fall short in communicating just how amazing empathy actually is, because empathy is probably the most intellectually demanding task that our brain is actually capable of doing. And I'd like to try and get across to people just how valuable empathy is and how impressive it is. Like, you might think that this sum is hard, but that's just peanuts to empathy. Now, of course, the answer is 42. I've come across a lot of definitions of empathy, but most of them don't seem to convey just how incredibly helpful and useful empathy is, or just how awesome it is to be actually capable of empathy. So I'm going to go through my own definition of empathy in this video, and hopefully by the end of it, I will have impressed upon you just how important empathy is, or how valuable empathy is, and there'll be a newfound appreciation for it. And I'm sure I will talk about the healing power of empathy in later videos, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this one, so I'm just going to focus mostly on the external benefits to you to having empathy. Now, I define empathy as the ability to accurately surmise the thoughts, feelings, and or needs of another person, animal, or in some limited cases, objects as well, and I'll get to that in the end. Empathy is an ability that exists on a spectrum. Now, some people can only walk a few steps in somebody else's shoes, while other people can walk a whole mile. And some people are struggling to even do up the shoelaces of the shoes they just stole from someone. A minute ago, I just made a joke referencing a very popular British science fiction trilogy in 4 parts. For people familiar with this book series, my joke was obvious. But for people not familiar with Douglas Adams' work, my joke is going to seem very peculiar. They're going to be wondering something along the lines of, how did this guy not realize that 6 times 9 equals 54? I know how different people are going to react because I have empathy. I know that some members of my audience know the same things that I do, and I know that some people in my audience don't know the things that I do. I know the people who share my knowledge will be amused by what I am saying, and I know those who don't share what I'm talking about are going to feel confused. Thus, having empathy is all about knowing what other people know, don't know, might know, and how differently these people will react to what I say. That means that empathy is essential for comedians, teachers, leaders, therapists, journalists, and parents so that they can do these jobs well, because all these jobs require mind reading in order to be successful at them. In reference to my previous video about narcissism and communism, this is also why communists make terrible comedians, teachers, leaders, therapists, journalists, and parents, because they lack the empathetic skill set needed to be successful in these professions. Sadly, it doesn't stop them insisting that they dominate all these roles in society. And yes, I know some of you will be laughing at what I just said, and some of you will be cringing at what I just said. Deal with it. Empathy doesn't mean I have to make you happy, although it does mean I'm generally happier when you're happy. Unless you're a commie. Okay, joking aside, consider for a moment just how monumentally complicated such a cognitive task is. In order to have empathy, I need to guess based on really scant evidence, like a person's age, their sex, their clothing, their race, their vocabulary, and those are very fuzzy clues. They don't really give you any definite answers about what a person might know, what they don't know, what they might want to know, what I might know that they might want to know, or if they even want to know anything from me. Confused? Good. That means you're starting to appreciate how intellectually demanding empathy is without me having to talk about all the different parts of the brain and how they have to interact with each other perfectly before you can see other people as having a soul at all. And by soul, I mean they have a sense of consciousness, purpose, and meaning just as unique and precious to them as mine is to me and to everyone else that ever lived and ever will live. If I didn't have empathy, then other people would seem like mindless machines following their programming, and the living and dying of billions of people would seem pointless and meaningless to me, because it would appear from my perspective as though I was the only thing in existence that had any real purpose or value. But empathy isn't just profound like that. Empathy is extremely uncomfortable. If I go out in public wearing tattered clothes, it is my empathy that tells me that other people are looking at me and judging me based on my appearance. It tells me that they're probably drawing conclusions about me, like, oh, look at his tattered clothes. They might think I'm poor, they might think I'm careless or eccentric or unemployed or stupid, all things I don't generally want other people to think about me. If I'm fat, empathy means I feel embarrassed about it. If I say something stupid, empathy means that, oh, I might turn bright pink out of embarrassment because I know other people just saw me say something stupid. And then empathy means that I can know that other people can see me blush and know what I'm thinking. And then my brain starts to go into overload trying to process all that information at once. And that's why empathy leads us to being feeling quite socially awkward, even agoraphobic, embarrassed, humiliated, and frightened to speak up in class to ask a question that we believe is stupid. Thus, for a lot of people, empathy is a very painful affliction that wears them down with intense anxiety and dread whenever they go out in public or try to express themselves. This is also why narcissists often appear to have a social speaking superpower because of their lack of empathy. Their lack of empathy makes them resistant to feeling embarrassed or self-conscious when in a group of people. Also, if you are being pressured by a bully to give in to their demands, and they play up a sob story of like, oh, it's not fair that you've got so much more than me, or emphasize how emotionally upset they are because you're not doing what they want you to do, empathy can sometimes work as a weapon against you because you might have more sympathy with the needs and wants of the bully than your own needs, like for your own safety, security, and keeping possession of your things, thus making you a bit of a pushover. However, there's a lot more going on in these situations that are again beyond the scope of this video, but the take-home message here is that empathy can actually lead to a lot of discomfort, anxiety, embarrassment, and even weakness when trying to stand up to other people. So, if empathy is so complicated and has an alarming tendency to cripple your enjoyment of public speaking opportunities, why would people evolve empathy? What's the advantage of feeling self-conscious and easily embarrassed all the time? Well, people with empathy, being aware of how other people see them, tend to go in one of two directions. The first group, which is the smaller of the two, develop a whole personality that forms in opposition to their perceived judgments coming from other people. I'm not fat. You just have unrealistic beauty standards. I'm not a bully. You're just not doing what I told you to do. I'm not lazy. You just don't pay me well enough to do this work. I'm not a diva. You're just narrow-minded. In fact, some people even get violently defensive and complain about how other people are always undermining them with silent judgments and holding them back in life, making them feel inadequate, stupid, or inferior. The second group, which is the vast majority of the population, adjust to having empathy by raising their standards. Oh yeah, I do look fat. It's not a good look for other people. I think I'd like to lose some weight to improve how other people view me. Yeah, I do come across as, well, like a control freak and a bully. I think I should alter my approach to be more flexible and agreeable so other people will like me more. I can see why they don't want to give me a raise because of how little effort I put into my work. Now, if I try really hard and do some good work, I might impress them and then they'll give me a raise. Lol, yes. I am a diva. I can see why they might be seeing me as someone who sucks the fun out of a party for everyone else. I should relax a bit and not steal as much oxygen from other people so everyone can enjoy themselves. With these examples, we can see that as uncomfortable as empathy might be, it can be a very powerful motivator for self-improvement. Empathy can drive us to be kinder, more diligent, more attractive, more successful, so long as we don't resent the feeling of embarrassment that we sometimes fall into when we slip up. Rather, view that feeling of embarrassment as a powerful source of insight and inspiration. Thus, empathy has a lot of gifts to bestow for those who are willing to embrace it. Another advantage of empathy is that you're capable of solving ridiculously complicated problems. Now, Sam is into fitness and works in engineering, while Jane is homeschooling on her farm and is struggling with teaching her son mathematics. Jane has empathy, and she is able to surmise that if Sam works as an engineer, then he probably knows a lot about mathematics, and since he's a man who has made a successful living out of mathematics, her son, being male, might feel more inspired to learn mathematics from Sam rather than from her. So Jane surmises that since Sam is into fitness, he might also be interested in healthy eating. So she comes up with an offer of fresh fruit and vegetables she grows in her garden, and she offers them to Sam in exchange for him spending some time helping her son with his mathematics. What Jane has just done is in this example is solve a very complicated problem of motivating at least two people, she probably motivated herself, so it might be three people, to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do and actually enjoy doing it. This is the hardest obstacle for mankind, because overcoming this lack of motivation is actually the biggest impediment we have to success in our lives. Yet Jane here just solved it through a process of negotiation informed by empathy. Business people do this all the time by motivating people to buy products they didn't realize they wanted or needed before. It takes empathy to figure out what people want or are willing to pay money for. Thus, a person who uses their empathy wisely can wield enormous power and influence over other people by offering them what they want in the right way at the right time, even if they don't know that they actually want it or need it. While a person who lacks empathy must struggle, usually with threats and manipulation or intimidation, to get other people to cooperate with them because they can't figure out how to negotiate with others to get the things they want from them. There are levels of empathy. Some people have very powerful abilities in the area of empathy, and other people are just awful at it. However, like all things, you can get better if you practice it. You can practice empathy just by playing games like guessing what other people might want for a gift, or they find out what they might know, guess what they might know or not know, guessing how they might respond to a joke, like if they think, oh yeah, that's really funny, or they might think baby jokes are really disgusting. But you can figure that out after a while. You can go, oh yeah, that person likes disgusting jokes, that person likes puns, and it just a simple thing like that really helps build your insight into other people and how differently other people think from you, and actually appreciating that people think differently and like different things from you is very mind-opening in itself. Anyway, there's a lot of games you could make up and have fun with this with your friends. Of course, both men and women have empathy. It's all the other genders who don't have empathy. Especially those who don't realize that was a joke. Please, don't believe people who say only women have empathy. By now, I'm hoping it's obviously clear that successful men have a lot of empathy too, especially because one needs a lot of empathy to be funny, and we all know women aren't funny. Oh my god. I'm going to get into so much trouble for these jokes. Why do I do this to myself? But while men and women both have empathy, there's a difference. Men have a tendency to have broader empathy, and women have a tendency towards deeper empathy. What do I mean by broader empathy? Well, broad empathy is being able to ascribe feelings and needs and desires to things that don't actually have feelings. And men do this all the time with cars, with tools, with other machines. Like, men will start a car and they'll hear it and they might go, oh, yeah, she needs some oil there, that she's grinding, that she's hurting there, that's hurting there, she needs some oil and grease and that'll fix her up. Women don't tend to do that. Women don't tend to form these connections with cars and vehicles and tools and be able to intuitively guess what the problem is with them just by listening to them. But women, on the other hand, tend to form very deep empathic connections with other people and animals that can border on obsession, worrying about what they're thinking and feeling and what their needs are and what kind of gifts they may want. Sometimes to the point where they're self-sacrificing for the other because they feel so strongly about how the person or animal they are connected feels. I do hope this video has helped shape or reshape your views on empathy in a positive direction, and one that appreciates just how important empathy is. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So if you'd like more videos like this, let me know, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Until next time, please like, share and subscribe if you got something worthwhile from this video. And that's it from me. Per Aspera ad Astra.